Hey there everyone, hope you're all doing well. So if you've kept up with the internet recently, you may have noticed that Jake Paul has just released his second educational course online, this time talking about financial freedom instead of about vlogging and becoming a YouTuber. And if you're interested in deeper reviews of this kind of content that's kind of included in this course, I'll link below to a set of videos by a few channels who have bought this course or his past course and gone through some of the content. What I want to do now though is offer a new perspective on this whole idea of becoming financially free. And I want to kind of base this off of what I've gone through as an individual and what was taught to me growing up, about financial freedom. I used to think that I just needed a better job and better pay to make it in the world, and that I would become 100% financially free if I just did those things. But what I found out from real life is that things are actually quite different from that. And I think that maybe sharing about this may help you out as you continue to work on forming a career and of course kind of establishing yourself in today's economy. So when I was younger, I would listen to this guy named Dave Ramsey all the time. He was pretty much kind of your original bankrupt to millionaire kind of story, and someone who a lot of conservative families and groups were very fond of. My parents were in this boat, and so it was something that I could listen to on cassette tapes while going throughout my day and kind of pass the time. And Dave would talk a lot about credit card debt, paying attention to your finances, spending cash instead of, paying with a card, and a ton of other tips that were meant to make people think differently about money. And not only did I grow up with this advice in my ear, my parents also lived a life that was very similarly financially well managed. And they taught me a lot about this kind of topic too. So, I had these ideas of what a financially stable life was supposed to look like, but even then, actually getting my first job and, kind of starting to deal with expenses and finances, on my own was an entirely different experience. I started working at a pizza shop, and because I really didn't have any kind of bills or anything like that, I started stockpiling a ton of money. And of course, when I mean a ton, it wasn't actually a ton of money. It was just, a lot to me at the time. And this was how it was kind of me for a pretty long time, because even when I went to college for, the first couple of years, I was still kind of living with family members, and, my parents were paying for my car insurance and a lot of other things, so I really didn't have to worry about too much. So for like the first 4 years at my first university, I really didn't have any financial struggles, and things were, pretty easy for me. I wouldn't say that everything was like perfect, but, generally speaking, I wasn't, living a terrible life. I was pretty, kind of secure in the way that I was living. This really gave me a rather unfounded sense of security though in my finances, not because I was well managing everything that I had, but because I had no bills that were actually really taking away a ton from my income. There weren't any expenses that were really kind of crippling the way that I was working with my finances. Within reason, I was really able to just buy whatever I want, buy food whenever I wanted to, go out with my friends whenever I wanted to, and spend money on tech and computer gear like I did buying the system that I have now. And while none of these things are necessarily bad, I was kind of in a financial spot that was just kind of lucky. I wasn't special in any sense, I wasn't doing anything different, and the only reason that I was doing well is because my family was still supporting me in many ways. But then things started to change after I graduated from my first university and moved off. When I started my second degree, I told myself that my job was the reason that my mental health was on a decline, and I decided that I had the finances and the savings not to work for a semester or two and just take the time off. Now, I do think that retail work at the time was something that I was having a hard time with, but my mental health was already on the decline by the time I graduated, just based on how thin I was stretching myself with the degrees and the responsibilities that I had. And although working did contribute to my overall sense of desperation, it wasn't the only factor, and that's something that, I kind of realize now, but I didn't at the time. So my mental health was kind of on a decline, and I was at a university for the first time that I didn't know anybody at, and right about that time I was blindsided by a tuition payment that I wasn't expecting to have to pay for. And this tuition payment was literally about the exact same amount of money I had in my savings. And it was kind of then that I started to experience life from a completely different viewpoint. My parents helped me make it through those 2 semesters at that university, but when I came back after that university, I really started from ground zero with nothing, no finances, no security in my savings, nothing. And I started to have to budget for the more adult things too, like car insurance, hefty rent payments, and a ton of stuff that I was much more comfortable with in the past just based off of my savings. And after a couple months of dealing with this, I was pretty cemented in the mindset that I just needed to make more money to actually feel financially stable again. I guess the point of this story is that I did end up getting a new job, paying less for rent, and all of the things that I thought would make me financially stable. But at the end of the day, the older I got, the larger my bills got too. Even on the months where I stayed in and just ate oatmeal and some of the cheapest, things I could buy for food and I wasn't eating out, I ended up having to pay for new tires or replace my brakes, or my water bill was larger than I was expecting. And instead of really having this artificial sense of security in my finances because my bills weren't that big, I really started to have to deal with these larger expenses that just continued to show up day to day, as it kind of does when you're an adult. I really understand now how things can get really tight and really tough, even for people that are making a decent amount of money. So at the end of the day then, financial security for me really isn't about what my paycheck is or how large it is, but how that paycheck makes it back after all my expenses have come out of it. And I also have to budget for the expenses that I'm not expecting and know that that's going to impact my budget as well. And of course, these changes drastically happened as I got older, and it wasn't something I could have really prepared a lot for beforehand because I was starting from ground zero. So when it comes back to Jake Paul's, financial freedom course, really in the course, he talks only about increasing the paycheck size that you're getting by investing in online social media and hobbies and stuff like that. And the straight up fact in that sense is that, there's just too much content being uploaded to the internet on a daily basis for, people to interact with all of it. Meaning that there's techniques that he's teaching that won't work for everyone in the first place, and he pretty much knows that. Blowing up online is, partly a science, but it's also a lot of luck. And you can't really teach luck in that sense. But back to the point, even if a person beats the odds and blows up online, it doesn't mean that they're gonna have all of their problems fixed now that they're making a larger check. Bills have a habit of scaling with new levels of income, meaning that if you're not taught how to deal with those bills, then you're never gonna be financially free. Freedom with finances isn't just a mindset. It's a personalized technique that a person builds and manages with their current income in a way that gives them a little bit of more overhead at the end of the month than they had before. It's those people who end up making money and feeling secure, and not the ones who just randomly had their income scale up, but also their habits of spending and their bills. I guess the conclusion here is that there's still a lot that I have to do to get back to a place of homeostasis with my finances. But right now I understand why I'm here, and I know that my financial freedom isn't just based on making another $1,000 a month. And people like Jake Paul who offer courses that just teach people to make more money aren't going to actually be helping that many people. Because even if a financial guru comes out with content that isn't just straight up BS, if people aren't taught about how to work with the money that they already have, they aren't ever gonna actually feel financially free. Hopefully this video helped you a little bit and kind of your understanding of this kind of content online. A lot of people are out there really wanting to, grow and get better and prosper inside of this capitalistic structure. But, going out and buying a course like this isn't necessarily going to help if there's no information in there that is actually going to change somebody's life. And of course, it's, safe to assume that a lot of people out there are just trying to make money off of people that are trying to grow and scale their business or, make a larger paycheck. And they just specifically play into that environment instead of actually helping them with the real tips that are gonna help people grow. If you have any thoughts or comments on this topic, feel free to leave them below. I definitely think that I need to do another video on basically some of the smaller tips that help when kind of scaling your income or trying to have a little bit more overhead at the end of the month. But that's all I got for this video. I just wanted to kind of put this out there because of how relevant it is to this current conversation. Outside of that, I'll see you guys in the next video.